here's how it works. On the subwoofer, the cube right up here on stage, right, is a sign-in sheet. There's 8 spots. Just put your name on it, first come, first serve, and everybody gets about 7 minutes, and we'll start here in a few minutes as soon as we get some names on this sheet. So come up here, sign up, and then we'll begin. All right, thank you.
The project that I'm working on is actually photography and poetry melded together. The photographer that I worked with is Kim Hartman. You can look at her work on colloquial.com if you're interested in photography. A collection of poetry called the Wench Blues, and I'm planning on putting this up on Kickstarter. So if anybody is interested in learning more about the project, you can find me on Facebook under the Crimson Lily Files, or under my website, which is also called the Crimson Lily Files. This first poem is called Manifest Destiny. Great White Father needs more. Columbus invested and infested this corner of puritanical pretension riding on the shoulders
of speeches derived from stolen patterns. He dresses up as his own fanciful thoughts, as if bringing forth an original creation sprouting from the ethereal and divine landscape of the muse's mind, is his own crowning achievement and academic glory.
Spilling unfettered into the unknowing territory of blank pages, unable to question his authority, permitting frazzled extensions of his vanities to cascade down the waterfall of a narrow mind, growing across the masses of unassuming minds.
They are blinded to the hubris of the man's natural superiority complex, echoing simple thoughts of exaltation from their lips. The pontificates, sycophants, moisten and pucker, in order to win favor and permanently weave their wagon train onto this main.
Narcissism ejaculating drops of gray into the aging and serpentine tributaries flowing through the assimilated consciousness that disregards its own contribution to the savage slaughter of tradition and culture, relegating the sacred stories of Grandma Spider to a subordinate mythical position in the scholarly mind, submerged in the tangled thicket of entitled tresses, curling their flamboyant fingers around territory not theirs to take. No shortage of meta-discursive actions in the overinflation of ego, and the dubiously homogeneous language
that blots out any periphery chances of seeing the exotic terracotta beauty in a shaman's sun, shining under faded feathers, webs, seashells, rocks, and beads. The trickster's hide covers hollow words that are mighty in their vapid white meaning.
Yet the eye of an eagle can spot the bald-faced lie that sits atop the mountain, but it's never truly Spokane.
I've always enjoyed photography, and when my friend sent me a camera a few years ago, I had a chance to start playing around with the camera, and then had the good fortune of having a close friend, one of my favorite photographers in Fort Wayne, Andy Paquette. I had an opportunity to start assisting him, and he taught me how to use the camera and how to work on composition and lighting. And so I started working with him, and then had the opportunity to branch off into my own interests. I enjoy shooting people, and that is what I enjoyed about weddings, was the opportunity to shoot people. But now I work more with kids. They are less constricted, they're more themselves, they're more natural, they're more comfortable in front of the camera, they don't have they're not self-conscious, and so it's just kind of a more honest moment and less confined by constraints. And I enjoy shooting the older buildings and just capturing different things from different parts of history. When I shoot, I really enjoy shooting the everyday moments, like people, and I think that's one of the things that I like about buildings and just walking around. It's an everyday moment. And I like to capture the everyday moment, but I like to play with perspective and angles and maybe capture something from a view that's not commonly seen. And so I like to draw out, if I'm able to, just the beauty of an everyday moment or item. I don't really set up my shots. I like to see what's there and then be more creative on how what is already there is captured. I'm trying to push my creativity in those areas. I enjoy doing other things also, but within the realm that I've been working in. I'm just trying to work more with lighting and the angles and depth perception. So I'm just trying to fine tune. So I try to, each shoot I approach, I try to focus on one thing to improve and build myself that way. And some projects are more confident building than others. Some are more learning. But as far as taking it in the fine art direction, my key with photography is I've always loved photography, and I've just, recently been lucky enough to have opportunity to do it myself. I want to keep it where I can enjoy it, and when people start hiring you for a job, they have very specific things in mind, and if what I deliver isn't what they want, then it becomes very stressful and it's not enjoyable anymore. And I want to be able to take the kind of photos that people can assess them and make their own opinion, and if they like them, fine. If not, that's fine too. So for me, photography is more about presenting things how I see and trying to introduce people to new perspectives and maybe seeing something a little bit differently. And I think that's kind of where I'd like the photography to go, as opposed to forcing an image that somebody is hiring me to take. That's not how I want my photography to go. A good friend is working on some poetry and would like to use Kickstarter to help fund the project, and was interested in having photos to help give imagery to the project. And I've spent many years bartending and appreciated the theme of the project and the concept behind it. And one of the things that I enjoy about photography, like I said, is capturing people in everyday moments. And when I was bartending, I had the opportunity to observe a lot of human behavior. And so I was excited about the opportunity to capture those moments I'd spent so much time watching, and capturing those to help with the project. And it was an opportunity to expand my experience and new subject matter. The most challenging, honestly, it was pretty technical. Trying to work with the lighting in a bar setting, and I didn't really want to use flash, and so just having the camera function in a low light and maintain the mood. I love numbers and sequences, so like the Fibonacci series, I play around with a little, trying to work with proportions. I don't know that it actually comes out when I'm shooting, but especially when I'm editing, I kind of try to keep in mind ratios. I don't know that, once in a while I work with distorting objects. Sometimes I try to play with how close the subject is to the camera as opposed to the backgrounds. Right now I'm playing around more with angles, and I try to work with the ratio of the composition. But at the same time, with the more experience I have, the more I realize I have more to learn. So right now I'm looking at keeping it as a hobby. Hopefully someday I'd like to build my experience to the point where maybe I could exhibit work and then go from there.
Ashes of him. It was years ago when I last saw him, the biological one. He smoked Winston Reds. He inhaled 4 packs every day. I saw those bloody bears of death. Each new addition to his ashtray corrupted and crushed out his fatherly love, as if the smoke and tar oozing into his lungs mirrored the second-hand thoughts clouding my young mind. with blackened memories of family ties. A steady supply at the ready, waiting for the sizzling crackle and snap of his matches. He never gave a damn that his wispy fingers choked the life out of me, always clamped between his teeth or fingers, those slim, bone-white cancer sticks, and their angry red embers matched the heat of his malignant fury when he screamed. The sickly, sweet sulfur smells, picks at the wounds he inflicted. Harsh, raspy shouts filled with threats of something to cry about, and a closed fist raised to split a disobedient lip. At 13, I learned a valuable lesson in self-preservation and the selective disclosure of our truths. Hiding in plain sight, waiting for the right moment to break free from the suffocating rooms of his house. One day, God willing, I hitched a ride out of hell after accusations of insane treason only he could defend. An infraction as minuscule as spilt milk. I ran out the door with a pocket full of his rage, stealing one of his hateful packs along the way with no intention of ever looking back. On the road, I destroyed that pack ceremoniously with a shiny silver savior named Zippo. I felt the violent, violet hatred ebb out into the night's tumultuous tides, like a fading bruise after a backhand connecting to cheekbone. I don't know if his habits have changed since those years buried in the sand-filled ash can of childhood retrospection. But now, I can breathe deep in the knowledge that I am stronger for being forged in fires that were not able to slay me. I started writing for yearbook, and it progressed into an interest in wanting to write for either a newspaper or a magazine, and then I got interested in broadcast, so I ended up being at IU in journalism to end up, one, learning the technical side of being in front of a camera, but also developing myself as a writer. And then it was in W200 with Romaine Rubinis when I really started to take an interest in writing artistically and thinking that I actually was skilled as a writer, because it was in her class, or actually outside of her class, where she pulled me aside one day and said, "Veronica, can we schedule a time for us to get together for a coffee and talk about your writing?" And she told me that she thought I was really talented and that it was something that she couldn't teach as a teacher. It was instinct as a writer, and that I needed to pursue it and develop it. Prior to that, I hadn't really, thought of myself as being much of a poet. I was definitely interested in poetry. I felt it was necessary to start working on creative writing and building my creative writing portfolio in order to get into a PhD program. And, well, it's one of those things. How can you really call yourself a writer if you're not writing? So it was a now or never. If I'm ever going to be a writer, now is the time to take it on and do it, because otherwise I just need to put that dream aside and move on and do something else with my life and stop feeling that frustration of not being a writer. This project got started as getting myself out of a rut and having other friends that were creative that were also kind of in the same boat that I was in, with knowing that we weren't happy with where we were at and having more education for what we were doing and wanting to put that education to use, or at least feel like we were getting our money's worth out of the education that we had earned. But at the same time doing something that we were passionate about and not feeling like we were just going through the motions and locking ourselves to a cubicle that we didn't necessarily want. That's how the Bar Wench Blues came into being. What it's spawning into since taking it from just talking about it and then putting it into motion as an actual real life project. It's become more of being able to collaborate with other people and meld, especially considering the fact that when you look at a bar, it's not just one group of people. It's a public space where all sorts of walks of life come together and intermingle. And a lot of times, there'll be like threads of commonality, like a gay bar. So people are gay, that's why they gather at this particular bar. Or it's a biker bar, so this is where the bikers go. And then you have your martini bar and, your little hole-in-the-wall neighborhood bars. So you have all these different walks of life. And so to capture what it really is like to be in that environment and live in that environment and work in that environment, I feel like I need to open this project up to be a more collaborative and have more voices besides just my own experience. So that's a big part of why I want to put this project on Kickstarter, not only to get funding to help actually get it into printing and published, but also to get the other voices into the project and to get those cross experiences of how we come from different backgrounds, but we have all these areas of commonality, and the chaoticness and the whirlwind of so much stuff going on, like little stories going on behind the bar, and what you see isn't necessarily the true story behind things and how we put fronts in front of things. But the vision, what I see Bar Wench Blues being on Kickstarter and the purpose of getting the funding is for other creative types to be able to add their voice, whether it be a metaphor or a simile, or they want to contribute a title or a theme or something along that nature to help build the poem, and to have multi-layers of voices that are outside of my own, but that are knowing that they're not of my own voice, and then bringing them into my vision and making them work together to tell a bigger story is kind of what I'm hoping I'll be able to do, to where I can accurately capture all those different walks of lives and different personalities and the chaos and the craziness of drinking and all these different people, and you just don't know what's going to happen or walk through that door at any given time, and looking for a party and looking to forget, and all the reasons why people go out to a bar, whether it's to commiserate life or to celebrate life. And so I want to capture all of that, and that's why I feel that to really do this project right, I would need to be on a site like Kickstarter and to have that collaboration of people contributing in that fashion. It's daunting when you sit and think about what all is necessary to go into a project. And so being able to find like the library and having the people there be willing to help me out with questions and having like a little support group, just getting the project going and people taking an interest that way. It's awesome to feel that you're connected to something else and you're not just going through it alone. And I think that right there is the bottom line of this project, is just knowing that other people can experience all the things that go into being a bar wench and having your dreams not turn out the way that you want them to, and being able to connect to that and go, you know what, life didn't go the way I had planned it, but I can make it better, and I can there's other options. So that's basically what it all boils down to, is just creating other options and not feeling stuck where you're at.